Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2CTV. Another day and another fight for freedom, democracy, self-determination, and sovereignty for the people of this planet. So let's talk about what's going on this morning and obviously last night as well. The latest developments from Israel and the Middle East. Hello to everybody in the live chat. We're going to come to you guys to get your live reaction. I'm also going to do a separate video later on to thank every single one of you who've been supporting me, especially last night. A lot of kind messages and a lot of people sent PayPal donations and super chats and everything else. I'll do a separate video thanking you guys for that. But let's talk about what's going on today. Now we got confirmation that Hezbollah from the northern border of Israel and through Lebanon are now targeting Israel. Interestingly enough, yesterday we had the Hezbollah forces and the leadership saying we will do something if Israel put their boots on the ground in Palestine. But that hasn't happened. So I'm not really sure why they've decided, well, we know why they've decided to do it because they're nutters, but in terms of why they even mentioned the first statement, because they have decided to send out a lot of people from the northern border to go into Israel and of course send out their missiles. This is the details that we have hard of army zone and the IDF base in the north of Israel, very close to the Lebanon border. It's a common target for the Hezbollah leadership. No casualties so far from that specific attack. The response is ongoing. There's a lot of other targets as well. It's not really just the only one. We also heard from Trey Yinks, the reporter for foreign correspondent for Fox, that Hezbollah claims responsibility for rockets and mortar fire that targeted multiple Israeli positions in the north. Israel has already responded by, of course, targeting the Hezbollah bases and their locations up there near Lebanon. So one main question is going to be if the Hezbollah side, and because Hezbollah and Hamas have similarities, but they also have one key difference, which is about the Shia and Sunni debate. They have previously worked together, but at the same time, they have different agendas. I mean, the one common goal they have is to wipe out every Jewish person in the world. We know that because they've said it. And but apart from that, in terms of territorial claims, they have different ambitions. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how well they're going to be responding to the multiple attacks Israeli side, because everything's going to be slightly confusing for the northern side. They basically the Lebanese leadership. Trey also gave us this update on from the ground on what's been happening this morning.
Israeli security forces just chased down a group of Hamas militants that infiltrated from the Gaza Strip and stole a civilian car before heading toward the city of Ashdod. In the distance, we can see the car. There are bullet holes in the windshield, and forces here remain on high alert, concerned that at least one of these militants could have escaped and could fire on people in this area.
Right, that was Trey Yinks. Thank you so much for that update. So the southern side is still having issues near Gaza with the Hamas forces. The northern side with Hezbollah, they're also escalating. But we do hear now, thanks to Marion Naufal, that Israeli aircrafts are now flying over Kesarwan, deep into the Lebanese territory. This obviously sources the Lebanese citizens on the ground. They have actually spotted the aircraft. So we'll find out more about the footage. There's been so many sad stories over the last 12 hours or so about more details about the victims, especially there's been a German citizen that was one of the victims. There's a lot of posts that she's done on social media, on Instagram, that have come out now. There's a couple of footage about that festival thing that they had in the desert where a lot of people were attacked with the paragliders and everything else that happened. And it's been slightly disturbing to see some of the graphic footage, which we're not going to show on this channel for obvious reasons. But you can find everything on social media yourself. Anyway, let's see what else we actually have. One of the things is Hamas claiming successful new attacks again this morning since last night. The Hamas leadership say the commando fighters carried out a successful operation with 5 boats on the beaches of Ashkelon and took control of the sites. The commando fighters inflicted casualties on the enemy, and a number of them continue to fight until now. This was a statement by the Hamas leadership, obviously, but the Israelis, they are saying that they are taking back control of their territory. They are saying that, well, although they're still sending out warnings to a lot of residents in the south, saying it's best to leave the area until we clean out the nutters. They have been arresting a lot of these rogue terrorists who are still running around the streets in the south of Israel. The latest numbers for you guys, if you haven't seen it so far, again, this is changing by the minute, so it's quite difficult to stay up to date, but over 300 Jewish citizens, Israeli citizens, mostly Jewish, but of course we mentioned there were a couple of others, including Germans, who have lost their lives. Over 1,500 people have been wounded. Over 3,000 rockets fired into the country. Dozens of Israeli soldiers and citizens have been taken as hostage. So they are now political prisoners officially in Gaza. And we so far have had 252 Palestinians in retaliation, of course. One of the things that we now know, well, obviously we knew, a lot of us, but the media were hiding it for years and years, is the fact that what Hamas does, they put their bases and their rockets and everything else inside schools and hospitals, so that when the radar gets them from Israel, when Israel fights back, it hits hospitals and schools and basically places for vulnerable people, so that the Hamas could say, look, they are targeting innocent Palestinians. But that's always been a tactic. So this is the situation again, as usual. 252 Palestinians have now been also targeted. Over 1,000 people have been wounded from the Palestinian side. But so far, the numbers is overwhelming in terms of what's happening on the Israeli side. The innocent people who have been targeted. Inside the Palestinian side, a lot of them were the Hamas leadership and those obviously at the top of Hamas and those who are taking the orders, as they say. And of course, there were a few innocent Palestinians as well. But that happens on both sides. So there's also this news that came out earlier in regards to two tourists, Israeli tourists in Alexandria in Egypt, who have also been shot and lost their lives. It's kind of embarrassing now, considering the negotiations, recent negotiations between Egypt and Israel. Egypt are now also responsible, considering the person targeting innocent people in their own country, in Egypt, was apparently a police officer in Alexandria that decided to do that. So that's also a little bit of a crime on an international level, targeting citizens from a different country. So we'll find out more about that later on, the details about the two victims as well. But there's a lot of signs of solidarity across the world. We have images coming out, Iranians, anti-Islamic occupation Iranians. So these are the pro-freedom Iranians, Persian Iranians, Turkish Iranians, Jewish Iranians, standing side by side together, strong and united with Jewish people. And yes, they're doing it on purpose to send a message to the world that the Islamic Republic of Iran, the leadership of the Iranian regime, they are not Iran and they are not Iranian. They do not have the consent of the Iranian public. They are the occupiers of the land, who obviously got into power using a paramilitary coup in 1979. It's not democratic and they are not representative of the Iranian population. So that's what they are doing, standing side by side but with the Israelis and the Jews and everybody else. So let's go to the live chat. Boulder says, is Jeremy Corbyn leading them into battle? On this note, there's going to be another video later on, actually, because we're going to be talking about the Labour Party conference. The Labour Party conference this year is going to be a little bit juicy and edgy, because we are already hearing and seeing evidence of anti-Jewish sentiment. As usual, there's a lot of Palestinian flags and Hamas and other signs going around at the Labour conference. It's going to be a very challenging week for Keir Starmer to see, if he's actually going to be able to challenge these voices or not. Babylon says, like I said in the comment, I met an Iranian nationalist. Yep. I met Iranian nationals, and they said that they left because of the government. Of course. What else do we have? Carol says, all one illegals coming to the UK are an invading army. I'm also going to do another video on what we talked about last night, because we have more footage about what's been going on in London last night, in Berlin, and many other places around the world, where pro-Hamas supporters have been on the streets celebrating. And Sadiq Khan's reaction has been absolutely disgusting on this issue. We're going to talk about Sadiq Khan as well as the Mayor of London, because we are seeing that we have been infiltrated in the West for the past decade or so, couple of decades, by a bunch of anti-freedom, anti-democracy and anti-humanity invaders who have decided to come to the West by pretending to be political refugees or asylum seekers or whatever nonsensical excuse that they had. And we opened our doors. Our political leaders were so generous, saying, yes, all refugees are welcome here. And we are seeing chaos on our streets. You imported the problems of the Middle East and the third world, and now you're surprised that we are all being targeted. The British public need to snuff out and get names and faces of all the traitors in the UK pretending to be law-abiding citizens. You would think that would be a great idea. It's just that it's not possible. They're not going to do any of this because it's politically incorrect. This is the issue. SC Junk says, I bet the Labour Party conference are singing from the river to the sea. Yeah. And Starmer and that Angela Rayner will be quietly but cynically supporting it. Well, I don't think Starmer will be supporting it. I think he's just a weak leader, weak and feeble. But this is his opportunity. We'll see what Starmer does this week, because we've already seen a lot of pro-Hamas signs at the Labour Party conference, and they have an official event, anti-Israeli event. We'll find out what is going to happen, the reaction on that. Barry says, I don't agree with either Israel or Palestine at just atrocities that both sides have done. I don't think anyone agrees with anything bad that anyone does. I mean, some people are psychopathic, I know that, but I don't think anyone's making excuses. I've done another over the centuries, but I fully disagree with one country to try to take over another. Exactly. Invasion is invasion. It's a bad idea. You can still, it's the same with the whole Ukraine-Russia thing. We can have proper conversations about NATO strategy, the broken promises from both sides since the 1990s. But literally speaking, if the Russian forces are invading Ukraine, they have invaded Ukraine. It's called an invasion. Invasion is an invasion. And now you can still support it or you can oppose it. You could love Putin. You could love Zelensky. I don't know what side you are, but invasion is an invasion. That doesn't really change anything, whatever you call it. Thank you so much. $5 super chat. I'm guessing that's the United States. Could be Canadian dollar, but $5 super chat. Thank you. Oh, there we go. As an American, I should have read the message first. As an American, if I were in London openly calling for the glassing of Gaza, I'd be deported and no questions asked. But this is the whole thing. Sadiq Khan tweeted yesterday saying, after Israel was invaded and attacked, saying, be careful, guys in London. Don't show hate crime, the hate speech stuff to Middle Easterns and Arabs and Muslims. Like, what? So we literally have Hamas, which is a banned organization in this country. It's banned. It's officially banned. It's a bad thing. They are still allowed to go around with their flags and signs on our streets, celebrate, right? That innocent Jews are getting targeted, right? But if you go out there and criticize the Hamas side, you will be in a lot of trouble. You will be in massive trouble. All right. When will the UN condemn the kidnapping of women and children by Hamas? Yeah, good luck with that. The UN has always been consistently against Israel for the past 70 years. It's a fascinating organization because it just simply allows the voice of nutters to take over. and it gives a massive platform to crazy countries to be the heads or representatives of nice things. Like they made, what was it? They made the Iranians in charge of the Women's Rights Commission or whatever it was, human rights. They say the same thing with the Saudi Arabians. I guess Saudi Arabia. I'm like, what are you doing? It makes no sense. So it's I guess at this point they could just make Hamas in charge of the expertise in geography. Absolute idiot. Andrew says, Maya, would the invasion have happened if the Russia-Ukraine war wasn't happening? Yeah, because there is the tendency we've seen from the Hamas side. Look at the history over the last few decades. They're not really organized. They're not fully organized. I think they're organized enough to do something like that. But this still seemed to be a situation where they noticed, obviously with the celebrations in Israel and everything else that was happening, the security forces were distracted, let's just say. And now there's a lot of questions that the Israeli government need to answer about how you allowed this to happen. We know that, and people are already creating conspiracy theories, saying, well, the Israeli intelligence is very strong. How did they fall for this, right? So definitely serious questions need to be answered. But in regards to Hamas and what they do, it just seems a chaotic move again, because they don't play chess. They're not like Putin. They're not like, again, or Mossad or all the others who technically play a long-term game. They knew, well, surely they knew that this operation will fail. Of course it will fail once they're inside Israel, and the retaliation will be crazy. But these people are Puritan ideologues, so they're just waiting to get targeted by the Israelis so they could go to heaven and meet their 72 virgins. Is it 72 virgins or 40? 72 virgins? I don't know what the book says and their prophets. But apparently 72 virgins are waiting for them in heaven. So they're fine with that. But it doesn't really, I don't think it's anything to do with the situation, with the whole... I mean, the only thing I could say, similarity, or related to the Russia and Ukraine thing, is the fact that the Russia-Ukraine thing has happened. And at least subconsciously it made them excited that, oh, we can still invade countries apparently these days. So that's why they did it. But there's no long-term planning. It just makes no sense what the Iranians are up to. By the way, we keep saying Hamas. It's the Iranians. The Iranians, and with their own idiotic ideas. 70. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is actually interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. 72 virgins. I always forget the number. I don't know. But it doesn't specify gender of virgins. That is such a good point. It never specified the gender of the virgins. Oh, imagine if you're that poor member of the Taliban. You've done your operation. You think you're getting to go paradise. You open the door. Like, where are my virgins? And the whole group of people with messy and dirty beards, massive beards. And they're like, oh, we are your virgins. Welcome to paradise. Oh, that will be very, very off-putting, unfortunately, for the Taliban members. Tony says more like 72 goats. Anyway, what else do we have? Mark says there's only one way. Jesus was a Jew. Let's not get into that again. All right. Yeah, we have the Faceless Free saying the UN stands for United Nutters. I'm going to steal that. That's a good one. Carlos says, what if you have a female martyr? Will there be 72 virgin men waiting for all? Again, but we just clarified. They don't have genders. They never specify the genders of the 72 virgins. Oh, those poor female martyrs. Well, I don't know. Is it poor? All right, let's move away from what's going on in heaven. We don't know what's happening in heaven right now. There's a lot of serious updates on the involvement of Iran, obviously, and they've taken credit for a lot of it. Hezbollah, but going back to Hezbollah, the excitement that we've had from Lebanon and the Lebanese side is a little bit embarrassing for the leadership of Lebanon as well, because, so what we talked about earlier was how initially yesterday, Hezbollah said, if you go and put your boots on the ground, they told Israel. And if you go inside the Palestinian territory, then we're going to attack you. But Israel hasn't done that. They've sent out some airstrikes and missiles as usual. And the Hezbollah side have already attacked from the northern border of Israel, from Lebanon. So that's already happened. No casualties in the first attack, but there's also been a number of other attacks. And the interesting thing about this is Trey Yings said that Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for the rockets in the northern side, which makes sense. That they are based near those sites. Israel has already responded by striking the Hezbollah sites and their positions up there. We also have another update from the southern side near Gaza when it comes to Israel, because the Israeli forces are now becoming more proactive and arresting and targeting, chasing the Hamas nutters.
Israeli security forces just chased down a group of Hamas militants that infiltrated from the Gaza Strip and stole a civilian car before heading toward the city of Ashdod. In the distance, we can see the car. There are bullet holes in the windshield, and forces here remain on high alert, concerned that at least one of these militants could have escaped and could fire on people in this area.
That also debunks the claims that we've had. Obviously, the Western liberal globalist agenda, the narrative for the past few decades has been pro-Palestine. And everything has been just attack Israel, the United Nations and everybody else. And in the media, they always just showed the Palestinian victims, not really the Israeli. Things are changing now. The tide is turning. Now, one of the claims is that, but innocent, ordinary people in Palestine, all of them, that they're all normal. They're not Hamas, right? And then we have footage of the Palestinians in Palestine celebrating. So hang on, you just said they're not the same as Hamas, but they're celebrating. And they've been, the hostages that we had, and that little kid, Israeli kid, a Jewish kid, who's been bullied by that Palestinian family and the kids that they had. They brainwashed the kids from the early days, and you're telling me that there is a difference. It's a similarity between Pakistan and Palestine. Palestine both becomes a cesspit for nutters. Even if you have a few normal people just living there, because a lot of the nicer Palestinians, they are occupied by the crazy leadership. The people in charge of those places, and the crazy parts of Gaza is the leadership. So technically, if you're an ordinary Palestinian who doesn't really like that craziness, you're also basically occupied by a bunch of Islamist nutters. But don't tell me that they're not the same. The rest of them are not the same as Hamas. So the other breaking news update we had was about the Israeli aircraft that have now been seen in Kasserwan in the Lebanese territory. But we are waiting to get confirmation of any attacks by them, because they did say that if the Lebanese side they're using Hezbollah attack from the northern side, which they have now, Israel said we are going to come back and attack. The interesting thing about the role of the Palestinian leadership as opposed to Hamas is every single time, just keep an eye on any news from them, because every time Hamas does something and Israel goes down a little bit, the leadership of Palestine, the authorities, not Hamas, Palestine, they find a lot of money. Suddenly they get rich. So this is not the first time. So it's going to happen again. Obviously, there's a lot of money laundering, especially when it comes to the Egyptian side, the pro-Palestinian Egyptian side. Actually, on the issue of Egypt, we're going to talk about that again. But we have a statement from the Hamas leadership saying they've successfully done another range of attacks this morning, saying commando fighters carried out a successful operation with 5 boats on the beaches of Ashkelon and took control of those sites. It's a big claim. The commando fighters inflicted casualties on the enemy, and a number of them continue to fight until now. You know what's interesting? The people in the West who are making excuses for Hamas, the same people who made excuses for Kremlin for invading, right? Been saying, yes, they did invade, but someone made them. Imagine if we go and say, we're going to start invading countries like Iran. We're going to invade Iran. And they say, why did you invade Iran? Like, well, they made them. They made us, because Iran kept saying death to America, death to Britain. I want to see if those leftists who are making excuses for the Palestinian side, for example, are going to defend us, saying, oh yeah, we did invade Iran, but they did make us. They're not going to do that, are they? Suddenly they're going to become moral, saying invasions are bad. Oh, special operations, military operations are bad. But when the other side do it, well, we made them, we provoked them. Oh no, what a shame. Are you kidding me with this? Bunch of hypocrites. So the latest numbers, again, this needs to be updated. But the latest numbers is over 300 Israelis have lost their lives. Over 1,500 Israelis have been wounded. Over 3,000 rockets have been fired into Israel. Dozens of Israeli soldiers and also civilians have been taken as hostages, and they are now political prisoners of war. And at the same time, the retaliation means that 252 Palestinians have lost their lives, and over 1,000 have been wounded from the Palestinian side as well. Okay. Let's go back to the live chat. By the way, let's not forget what happened earlier this morning in Egypt, in Alexandria. Two Israeli tourists have also lost their lives because of a police officer in Egypt who decided to target them. So that's also going to be a little bit of an issue on a diplomatic level between Egypt and Israel, as usual. It's not the first time something like this has happened. But again, the response from the Israeli side is going to be interesting because they can't really attack Egypt because things will escalate massively. And I don't think they're stupid enough to do that unless Egypt actually proactively does something to the southern side of Israel. That's not really a good reason. I mean, on a moral level, if a police officer from a different country take down two of your civilians, yeah, it's bad. But the response has to be proportionate, otherwise things will escalate bigly. So that's what we have. But we also have a lot of the anti-Islamic occupation Iranians showing support by standing side by side next to the Israelis and the Jews, showing support, saying that what the Iranian regime are doing is not in our name. Obviously, they have occupied Iran since the paramilitary coup of 1979 without any democratic consent. Of course, the Iranians have been occupied since then. David says Iran's Wagner group, which is Hamas, that's genius. That's exactly what they are. Hamas is basically Iran's Wagner group. Need to be destroyed, shipped to Iran or any other country. Animals, take women and children captive. But that was a perfect assessment. They are basically the Wagner group, but with more support, which is very disgusting. Blackpool Boots, thank you so much for your super chat support, super sticker, £5. What else do we have on this issue? How likely will the captured militants be held for a prisoner exchange? So I think that's why the Israelis are arresting the Hamas soldiers on the streets instead of just taking them out and killing them. It's because I think they want to exchange them with and that's exactly why Hamas decided yesterday to not just take away a lot of lives. They also took a lot of people as hostages because they knew that some of their men are going to be left behind in Israel and they're going to get arrested, so they need to find a way to take them back. So exchange it's one citizen with another citizen. See, there are still questions. Susie is right. How could the Israeli intelligence fail this badly? It seems unlikely. Again, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered from the Israeli side as well. Because the theories are coming up saying, well, they did it on purpose to look for an excuse to attack. I'm like, but that's just too easy. That's just too obvious. Usually things are more complicated than this when it comes to geopolitical strategy. But you never know. Maybe it's like a double bluff. So. Quantum Virus says, greetings from Lebanon, F, Hezbollah and Palestine. See, not everybody in Lebanon is supporters. And Nathan Edwards, hi Maya. Hello Nathan Edwards. Hi, I hope you're having a great day. I'm having a brilliant day. I'm trying my best. I had a very, very good night's sleep. That's why there was no morning live stream. There's an afternoon, midday live stream. But we're going to have so much to talk about today. What else do we have? Let me just show you guys what we have. we're going to talk about the Labour Party conference. Oh, that's going to be exciting because some sort of chaotic situation is going to be seen. There was already a protest there, apparently, when Angela Rayner was speaking. I'm going to talk about that later. Millie, thank you so much for your £10 super chat support. I really appreciate this in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Thank you so much, Millie. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Keir Starmer and his Labour Party later on, shortly after this. We're also going to be talking about the mainstream media in this country, the way they've been talking about the Israeli conflict, because I found some really, really disturbing footage or audio content from Times Radio. We're also going to be talking about Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, and his reaction to the developments, because London is kind of out of control right now. Since last night, I've been trying to sleep. Before I fell asleep, I heard a lot of sirens, a lot of police cars going around, patrolling the streets. There's a conflict in the Middle East, and in London, we are the ones feeling unsafe, thanks to the globalists pushing for more multiculturalism and mass migration. And our mayor, Sadiq Khan, is not looking after us and our safety. Instead, he's saying, please don't be mean to migrants. I don't think anybody was planning to do that, Sadiq, but okay. Chris, is it Chris? Thank you so much for your £5 super chats. I really appreciate this. Keep it up. I will keep it up. Oh, sounds sexual again. Okay. All right, thank you so much for watching. We're gonna come back shortly in a couple of hours with more updates, and we're gonna have a couple of more live streams tonight, because I have a feeling it's gonna be one of those days where we're gonna get a lot of breaking news stories. So probably from 5-6 p.m. onwards, stay tuned. We're gonna do some live shows. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.